Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth and it's always nice to sew with you. Recently I've been working on a sampler quilt for Christmas. This is our 4th block Christmas star. There will be 8 different sampler blocks in the quilt. Most of them I'll be making 2, and I'll choose one of the 8 to only make 1 because there is a total of 15 sampler blocks. And then last of all, I'll be making an alternate block, and I'll need to make quite a few of that block as well. So we have a few more blocks to work on together, and I do have some paper patterns in my Etsy shop if you're interested. So today let's get started on block number 4 of this quilt along called Tiny Blessings. For our block today, we're going to need a center square that's 3.5 inches and then quite a few 2.5 inch squares. I'm using 2 red prints, so I have a red number 1 and a red number 2, green, pink, and white, and then I also need some 2-inch squares, and the numbers of these will be down below. First thing I did was I put my little squares into groups of 2 for my half square triangles. To make my half square triangles, I'm drawing a pencil line, and then I'll put a seam on both sides of my pencil line. Once I had my squares together, I put them right next to my machine, and it was really easy to chain piece all of these squares together to make my half square triangles. As you can see, I am working on a camping trip. This is my little sewing setup. When we are camping, we had a little getaway, and I took a little time aside to put my quilt block together. This block requires a lot of half square triangles, so I had a lot of triangles to cut and to press and to trim, but it's real peaceful work and I don't mind at all. If I have the time set aside, it's so nice to have a little sewing to do when I'm on a trip. Here's the pressing station I set up in my trailer. I have a iron here, a low watt iron that's helpful since we did not have any hookups. We were dry camping and I just had solar power, so I was trying to minimize the amount of electricity I was using. And my little pressing mat here is one of my cutting boards, and this ironing cover is a little bit big. It's from my old trailer, and I had made it for the counter that I had in my old trailer. So I'm just using the same cover, and I wrapped it around one of my bamboo cutting boards, and it made a really great little pressing station here in my trailer. This is the only ruler that I had with me. I was a little disappointed. It does not have that center line that many of the square rulers have going through the middle. They have 60-degree, and I can't remember the other lines on this ruler, but it did not give me the center line. So I had to just be careful and aim for the corners of my 2-inch square. And I went through and trimmed all of my half square triangles to 2 inches. now it's time to lay out my block. So I started in the middle with that 3.5-inch square, and I'm moving out with the green half square triangles, and then I'll fill in the sides with the other half square triangles following the pattern. And the pattern, like I said, is in my Etsy shop with the layout, or you can just pause the video and see where these little half square triangles are located on this quilt block. Quilt block is pretty big, and my table is not that big, and I wanted to be able to chain piece and kind of keep track of all my pieces. So I had this little piece of cardboard handy, and I'm going to put that next to me with each row so that I can keep track of my pieces, and I will be chain piecing and just trying to keep my brain engaged as I put these together, keeping everything, oriented correctly. And actually I was successful. I didn't have to do any ripping out, but a lot of times that's what happens, when you're doing a lot of pieces that need to be oriented the right way. So I got all of my rows together, and once all my rows were together, I put each row one by one together, and this is what I finished up with, this beautiful Christmas star block, the fourth block in this little quilt along. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.